Back to travel after COVID. The air travel industry has always been a turbulent one, but the past year was particularly rough. After a year of lockdowns, restrictions are finally lifting and flyers are flooding airports for their much-needed vacations. But before you book your next flight, there's some new rules and changes you need to know. Here's the latest on travel this summer. Unexpected cancellations. A year ago, airlines were struggling to stay afloat. Now they're having trouble meeting demand. Major airlines recently announced they're cutting 50 to 80 flights per day through the summer due to staffing shortages and maintenance issues. I just hope there's nothing wrong with the left phalange. As peak summer travel picks up, it's not uncommon to get a text from your airline 24 hours before departing announcing that your flight has been canceled. With strange shortages and furloughed staff refusing to return, you should be ready for any last-minute changes with a solid Plan B. So, what do you do if your flight does get canceled? With wait times up to 4 hours, getting a hold of a customer service rep might be tough. Here's a pro tip. If you've got unused credit card points, book through those instead. It'll be way easier to reschedule with a travel rep through your credit than an impacted airline or travel website. I got someone on the phone within 15 minutes. My friend wasn't so lucky. Either way, expect travel plans to get a little messy. Masks on a plane. While mask mandates have been lifted most places, airports and planes remain the exception. If you step foot in an airport, you'll undoubtedly hear a pre-recorded reminder about federally mandated mask requirements every few minutes. Whether or not it's strictly enforced will depend on your local airport, but considering more than 2,600 passengers have already been banned for refusing to comply, it's probably not worth risking your summer plans. While masks add another layer of discomfort to your already stuffy cross-country flight, it just comes with the territory as we find our way back to normal. But more legroom, right? Out of necessity, most airlines have ditched the every other seat rule. The bad news is that if you're stuck in coach, you'll be just as crammed as before. But if you're looking for a flight hack, we've got you covered. You might be able to get a better seat for free if you ask your gate attendant about switching to the emergency exit row. These seats often go unsold and they offer twice as much room as their counterparts. For everyone else, the future looks roomier. United Airlines recently made a historic order of 270 new Airbus and Boeing planes to the tune of an estimated $30 billion, the largest airplane purchase in over a decade. Their goal? More jobs, more flights, more seats. But they're not just expanding their fleet, they're also upgrading it. They'll be outfitting their new birds with 75% more premium seating, more legroom, full entertainment in every seat, high-definition screens, power outlets, and faster Wi-Fi to attract more frequent flyers. Quite frankly, you had us at more legroom. Welcome to the cleanly skies. Visit any airline's website and you'll find a bunch of jargon about their state-of-the-art filtration systems and new cleanliness protocols. Makes sense considering being stuck in a giant pressurized tube with a bunch of strangers isn't the best way to avoid sharing germs. Thankfully, it's not just lip service. Before taking off, you'll be handed personal disinfectant wipes, and as you make your way off the tarmac, you'll notice the crew wiping down every seat and tray table before the next flight. Considering pre-COVID cleanliness was virtually non-existent, according to a flight attendant from a non-disclosed airline that we spoke to, this is a big step up. For germaphobes and passengers worried about potential risks, these changes offer some extra peace of mind. The Flying Delta variant. Still, one of the biggest tests to travel's full recovery is the new variant that's emerging all over the world. Scientists call it the greatest threat in the U.S. to our attempt to eliminate COVID-19. It's not only 3 times more contagious than the Gamma variant, it can even be passed through those who have been vaccinated. Fortunately, it's no deadlier than the previous strains, but it has been putting some countries on high alert and created some hesitancy for unbridled borders. It's hard to say how this will affect travel this year, but it does seem like the final hurdle for a full recovery, hopefully. For now, keep your eye out for updates regarding the Delta variant and get the latest before making any plans. Do I need to be vaccinated for travel? In case you're wondering if you need to be vaccinated to fly, the answer is actually no. The CDC doesn't recommend it, but it's not totally off limits. For those pining for a Roman holiday, you're in luck. All EU and UK countries are finally open to American travelers. But whether you're vaccinated or not, there's still some red tape to cut through. While European borders may be open, each country's government makes its own regulations, so depending on where you roam, you might be required to quarantine or take a PCR test. Flying home is a simpler story. All U.S. citizens, regardless of vaccination, will need to provide a negative COVID test no more than 72 hours before your flight. What about a local vacay? Probably to someone's wedding? For domestic travel, here's what you need to know. Each state or U.S. territory has its own rules and recommendations. That said, most of the U.S. Commonwealth has lifted all travel restrictions with the exceptions of Hawaii, New Hampshire, Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, and Washington, D.C. Everyone who has sans vaccine is recommended to self-quarantine for 7 days after you land. Again, not required, but meant to help reduce any unnecessary risk. Since the landscape is constantly changing, a good rule of thumb is to check the specifics of each state before booking your travel. Considering it's only been a year since we felt the brunt of a worldwide lockdown, the fact that the travel industry is already bouncing back is a great sign. On the bright side, you're now free to move about the country and even other countries. The downside is you might run into some extra roadblocks while you do. But who didn't expect that?